All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started this morning. Good morning. There we go. Get a greeting out there. Hope everyone's well. We're glad to be back. Thankful the Lord blessed us with a good trip away. The hurricane went exactly where He sent it to go, and actually provided nice cloud cover on Wednesday for us, but thankful we didn't have to cancel the trip and had a blessed time away. Good and refreshing. Hope you all are well. Good to see each of you. Any prayer requests this morning? Any updates or things you'd like to share? Miss Glenda and then Miss Sharon.
I'll continue to remember my dad. The cancer center, he had the CAT scan and all the blood work done for them. I had called one day last week to see if I could talk to somebody about the results, but they called and set up an appointment. They want us to actually come in.
Okay.
So that's the first time they've actually done scans and had us to come in and talk about them. So
Okay.
I'm a little concerned about that, but the appointment's not until September the 4th. So, so just continue to remember that and his ongoing issues.
Absolutely. Be glad to. Miss Sharon.
Yes, my sister Brenda, they first told her that she had 3 tumors in her brain.
Right.
Well, right now, after further looking at it and her going to the radiologist or whoever she's supposed to go to, there was a small one and then a large one. So she just has 2. But they still have to go through and decide when they're going to start the radiation treatment. Just keep praying there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And salvation of family members.
Okay. All right. Let's remember these. Dr. Hughes. Yes, Lucas. Any updates on Lucas and this post-surgery? I haven't heard anything myself.
He was supposed to come home today, but his incision opened up yesterday, so he's going to have to stay.
Okay.
And so is Mary.
Okay. All right. Sounds like the latest with Lucas, one of the twins, Curtin twins, had the surgery. Sounded like it was successful. Supposed to have gone home, but the incision apparently has opened up, so going to keep him a little bit longer is our understanding. Anything else? Miss Robin, any updates with you?
So, here after Sunday school last Saturday, I went to urgent care, and I have an upper respiratory infection, but I also have laryngitis. So.
It doesn't go hand in hand with teaching. How are you at sign language?
That's not working. The students are used.
Ron understands what he needs to understand, but that's about the extent of it, yeah.
But these students are so used to having headphones on and talking on a computer, and so they don't hear my normal voice.
Understood. Okay, let's keep Miss Robin in prayer for an ongoing respiratory infection that she'd like mitigated in this final year of teaching, which has its challenges as well. So continued strength for her. Anybody else? Anything else? All right, let's open with a word of prayer. We'll resume our study here. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day of life, and I appreciate you giving it not only to me, but to each one. And it truly is a great privilege, but also a responsibility that we would live in the way that you'd have us to live and for the right purposes, Lord, to bring honor and glory to you. Thank you for blessing our family's trip this past week and allowing us to have that time together. And just pray that you'll continue to be with those that may still be traveling or away. Please keep them safe and allow them to have a blessed time as well. Lord, these needs that were mentioned this morning, Miss Glenda's dad, Lord, we've been praying for him, some chronic issues ongoing, and at times certain specifics, but I do pray for this upcoming test revelation that they're calling for an in-person visit. I just pray that you'll continue to give guidance and wisdom for him. I also pray for him, having lost his wife relatively recently, and the void that's probably going to have an ongoing effect in his life. So I just pray that you'll meet each of his needs. Please take care of him. Pray that you'll be with Miss Glenda and the other siblings that are going to serve as counselors here at this stage of life for him. Pray that you also be with Miss Sharon's request, certainly salvation for the members of the family that need to be saved. Lord, we know that you desire for them to be saved and have their sins forgiven. for which you've made payment. I just pray that you'll help them in their awareness and understanding to know that they need to be saved and what a great offer is being offered to them. Just pray that you'll continue to be with her sister Brenda. Lord, what was previously understood as 3 tumors is now just one large one smaller one. Nonetheless, a very significant issue in her life. And I just pray that you'll give this insight as to timing and specifically what treatment and when to start it for her. I pray that you be with Miss Robin, Lord, battling this ongoing infection for a time. I pray if it be your will, you restore her voice, and be restored back to what it needs to be for teaching in the classroom. I pray for comfort for her and a quick recovery if it be your will. Lord, there are many other needs that I may not list specifically, but we're thankful that you know each need of our hearts, our minds, and the burdens that we carry. Just pray that it will help us to have the strength to release the anxiety over them and submit them to your power and control. Please bless each class this morning. Help us to understand from your words what you'd have us to understand and then go and do. We love you. We're thankful to you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. It feels like I've been gone for 20 years. But honestly, it's just a week. But it's the perception on the mind is a strange thing sometimes. But we closed out last week, chapter 10 actually, brought conclusion to that. And not necessarily asking for testimony unless there is something you'd like to share, but did you give any further thought on a band of good men or maybe a band of bad men in your life, perhaps that you received or that you received the benefits of, and maybe taking that thought one step further? Have you thought about being that member of a band of good people, or I hope you haven't given any thought to becoming a member of the band of bad men, bad people. But it's easy to do. I say that somewhat in jest, but how much effort do we have to generate to be discouraging? Or how much effort do we have to be derogatory or melancholy or sour in someone else's life? I feel like that just comes quite naturally, doesn't it? But we have to work hard to be encouraging.
As believers, and we see that, sometimes I feel sorry for them.
That's good.
When I see that. Because and I don't want to talk to them because I know they'll come at me, with...
Almost like retaliate
Yeah.
of sorts.
But I, as a believer, feel sorry for those that feel that way or that do stuff like that.
Speaking specifically of mean people.
Yeah.
People just always...
Constantly.
I do too. I pity them. I do too. And if you think if we reflect back on the life and ministry of the Lord Jesus Christ here on this earth, his life was full of that, wasn't it? People constantly riding his case and slinging insults and just things of that sort. And his meekness, I believe, really shone through. Very, very strong individual. That's why, I don't want to get on a rabbit trail, but I can't stand the effeminate nature that people depict Jesus Christ. He was a manly man, but he was full of great strength, but also gentleness. And he treated ladies with respect, and he elevated everywhere he went.
Yeah.
Fine testimony, the ultimate testimony for us. Well, as we move forward into 1 Samuel chapter 11, new chapter, and we actually start off on a high note here. Oftentimes when we think of King Saul, we think, what a bad king. What a terrible setting in the history of Israel. And then those things would be true. But King Saul is not without due respect, or should I say some credit where it's due. So let's look through 1 Samuel chapter 11 and see what we can pick up here. 1 Samuel 11, Then Nahash the Ammonite came up and encamped against Jabesh-Gilead. And all the men of Jabesh said unto Nahash, Make a covenant with us, and we will serve thee. And Nahash the Ammonite answered them, On this condition will I make a covenant with you, that I may thrust out all your right eyes, and lay it for a reproach upon all Israel. And the elders of Jabesh said unto him, Give us 7 days respite, that we may send messengers unto all the coasts of Israel, and then, if there be no man to save us, we will come out to thee. Then came the messengers to Gibeah of Saul, and told the tidings in the ears of the people. And all the people lifted up their voices and wept. And behold, Saul came after the herd out of the field, and Saul said, What aileth the people that they weep? And they told him the tidings of the men of Jabesh. And the Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard those tidings, and his anger was kindled greatly. We'll speak more of this, but should it have been? Is that a right thing to get angry over? I think so. That's a threat against God's people. And he took, verse 7, he took a yoke of oxen and hewed them in pieces and sent them throughout all the coast of Israel by the hands of messengers, saying, Whosoever cometh not forth after Saul and after Samuel, so shall it be done unto his oxen. And the fear of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out with one consent. They're of one mind, and they're all in agreement here. And when he numbered them in Bezek, the children of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. And they said unto the messengers that came, Thus shall ye say unto the men of Jabesh Gilead, Tomorrow, by that time the sun be hot, ye shall have help. And the messengers came and showed it to the men of Jabesh, and they were glad. Therefore the men of Jabesh said, Tomorrow we will come out unto you, and ye shall do with us all that seemeth good unto you. And it was so, on the morrow, that Saul put the people in 3 companies. And they came into the midst of the host in the morning watch, and slew the Ammonites until the heat of the day. And it came to pass that they which remained were scattered, so that 2 of them were not left together. And the people said unto Samuel, Who is he that said, Shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men, that we may put them to death. And Saul said, There shall not a man be put to death this day, for today the Lord hath wrought salvation in Israel. Then said Samuel to the people, Come, let us go to Gilgal, and renew the kingdom there. And all the people went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal, and there they sacrificed sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord, and there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. Well, it's not necessarily a pretty picture in this chapter. There is some violence. There is some bloodshed, if you will. But I see it as encouraging, and it's a positive note. The entrance, the beginning of Saul's kingdom, if you will, his kingship, starts off on a high note. The defense of the people. I truly believe this is one of the greatest performances of Saul. It's sad to start out on a high note and then work your way downhill into a valley, but that's the life of Saul. And he has some other things of note. Lord willing, we'll cover them. But I don't believe Saul ever rose to such a prominent position such as he did in this chapter. So what's happening? If you picked up in the reading as you read through it or listened to the reading of it, you find out that the children of Israel are where they are in their respective places. And you have Nahash the Ammonite coming up. He's an oppressor. So let's look at this piece by piece, see if we can understand who these people are and what was happening. Text says that Nahash the Ammonite came up and encamped against Jabesh Gilead. Israel is now under attack by an enemy army. Who are these people? The Ammonites. Should the Ammonites have been peaceful? Should the Ammonites have been expected people? Or were these expected enemies? Well, let's go back in our history. If you go back to Genesis 19, you may already know this. And if you do, I do not want to insult your intelligence. Perhaps we know it and just need a reminder. But when you start to turn to Genesis 19, if you're turning there, you don't have to. I don't ever want that to sound like a mandate. Turn or don't turn, but where I'm looking here for this review of the history is Genesis 19. And when you're in that section, you find we're dealing with Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, now what comes to mind? Positivity or significant negativity? A lot of bad news. Well, if that's where we're going for our history of Ammon, we find out that Sodom and Gomorrah pretty much is the core center. And then out from there will come Ammon. I don't want to get on a rabbit trail, but maybe for some trivia, if you want a cheat sheet, Ezekiel chapter 16 will help you. What was the ultimate reason why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed? Do you know? Or do you have any insight? I'm going to turn to Ezekiel 16 for my cheat sheet. So no shame in that. Oftentimes we think of it as a certain lifestyle, right? We think of it as, I'm going to put it as gracefully as I can, maybe that which is against nature. And that was definitely included, okay? So if those were your thoughts, that is not incorrect. But I want to read you something out of Ezekiel 16, which is God speaking as to why He destroyed that land. Let me see if I can find it here. Speaking there, down through there. I will find it in a minute.
Look towards 48.
Yep, it's toward the tail end. Thanks, Dennis. Okay, if we start there in verse 47, I'm not going to deal with all the context, but I want this to be a thought that we carry back with us to 1 Samuel. Yet thou hast not walked after their ways, nor done after their abominations. 46. Thine elder sister is Samaria, she and her daughters that dwell at thy left hand, and thy younger sister that dwelleth at thy right hand is Sodom and her daughters. Yet thou hast not walked after their ways, nor done after their abominations. But as if that were a very little thing, thou wast corrupted more than they in all thy ways. As I live, saith the Lord God, Sodom thy sister hath not done, she nor her daughters, as thou hast done, thou and thy daughters. Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom. Pride, fullness of bread, abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters, neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy, and they were haughty and committed abomination before me. Therefore I took them away as I saw good. Ouch. I might try to separate myself and, let's say, my sins in my life from those of Sodom and Gomorrah and say, I've never been as bad as they were. But when the Lord here speaks to the disgusting wickedness that He perceived in Sodom, He starts out with pride. Fullness of bread. I don't need God providing for me. We provide for ourselves. And the idleness, laziness, boy, I see that ramping up in our society. I'm not trying to go on a political tirade. And as Miss Mary mentioned, I do pity folks that are not responding to truth because they're hurting themselves through laziness. But neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy. So as I go back to Genesis 19, and I have a picture here, something that was written long after Sodom was destroyed, God's testimony of that area is that when He looked down, and remember Lot vexed his righteous soul by being in the middle of all this, but you see pride and fullness of bread and all these things, God destroys it. But there was an escape, right? Lot makes it out. Lot's daughters make it out. Mrs. Lot made it out for a short period of time before becoming that pillar of salt. So after this escape from Sodom, in Genesis 19, let's look at 33 through 38. Again, not a most pleasant passage, but the Lord gave it to us, so we just want to understand what He would have us understand. Verse 30. Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelled in the mountains, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelled in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. Okay, so Sodom has been destroyed. His wife has now been destroyed. They're still somewhat transitioning away, farther and farther away. And the firstborn said unto the younger, these are of his daughters, Our father is old, and there's not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in, lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow, that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father, let us make him drink wine this night also. Go thou in, lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. The book of Ruth comes to mind when I think of Moab and Moabites. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Benami. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. All right, you with me so far? I do not want to be confusing in any way. Just trying to bring clarity. Who are the Ammonites in 1 Samuel 11? They are descendants of Lot. Okay, there was this incestuous, this wicked relationship in an effort to preserve lineage. And so these daughters did that evil thing, and evil came about. We can learn that principle. If we violate what God has told us to do, which is evil, expect evil results. We will reap what we sow. We don't need to dwell on the wickedness there. We understand what it is. But understand those two daughters each had a son, one being Moab, the other Ammon. Those folks, the Moabites and the Ammonites, became enemies of God and his people, constantly causing grief. If you will fast forward to Deuteronomy chapter 23, we'll not take time to go through it, you find the children of Israel migrating through the wilderness. And along the way, as we all understand, they would come across someone else's property, someone else's zone, in which it would be a whole lot easier if we could just peacefully come through your property, have an easement of sorts. It would ease our way. Could you please help us? Please allow us. And don't charge a lot of tribute or taxes. Well, in Deuteronomy 23, you find Moabites and Ammonites saying, in essence, no way. Who are you? And then they ended up hiring Balaam to prophesy against them. Basically, you're a man of God. Get your God to curse those people. God did not do that. So that's a very oversimplification, but that's what's happening. They would not help Israel on their way to Canaan, and they were actually opposed to Israel existing. And that's the curse that they wished upon them. Coming full circle, now in 1 Samuel 11, when you see someone, the Ammonite, we have hopefully a better picture. The beginning of the Ammonites, Ammon, was born of this wrong relationship. That family, if you will, that lineage grew, and they grew into a relatively powerful force, but it was a force that constantly worked against God's people. And one of the reasons that Sodom was destroyed is that they didn't help the poor and the needy. That was one of the things that the Ammonites, Moabites rejected Israel. They wouldn't give them bread, they wouldn't let them have water, that kind of thing. Well, when we read, then Nahash the Ammonite in 1 Samuel 11, we have a better picture of Ammonite, but what is Nahash? Almost sounds like a dish of some sort, doesn't it? You should try some of that Nahash. Well, Nahash is a very bad thing. So if it was a dish, it's probably toxic. It means serpent or snake. Interesting. So now when I have Nahash the Ammonite coming up against God's people in the passage I'm looking at, I realize that the activity of being against God's people, which ultimately is being against God himself, never separate the two, that has the devil's could have a fingerprint on it. It is identifying that is of the devil. And so here we have fitting conduct of a man that is satanic. He is like that old serpent, the devil, and Satan, who wants to harm God's people. We don't want to dwell all of our speech or conversation this morning on violence, but just a quick reminder, there is significant violence intended against God's people. It is in this country. I wish it wasn't. I wish we would be exempt, never even having to concern ourselves with it. We wouldn't have to put locks on the doors. We wouldn't have to have other tools and controls in an effort to mitigate threats. But it's international, because the devil is seeking about whom he may devour, whom he may destroy. Ultimately, it's not about the person. He hates God. He hates him with everything that he has, and he wants to bring dishonor. Let that remind us that the life that is created, whether it's my life or your individual life or all of our lives together, were built for a purpose. They were created for a purpose, and that is to bring pleasure to God. If we lose sight of that, we're going to be distracted in life. What are we doing? Where are we going? Satan is out to destroy that purpose. So in the text here, he is after the children of Israel. In our lives today, he is after us. He is trying to destroy us. But be of good courage. Greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. But thinking politically, thinking of international governments, what has been the general sentiment of leaders toward the nation of Israel or toward the people of God? In favor of them, supporting them, encouraging them, or trying to always displace them and put them somewhere else and get them off of the agenda, get them out of our attention? It's really a sore spot. It's the nations of our world have been like Nahash, that serpent trying to destroy God's people. We still see that today. I do appreciate some of the forward momentum that we've seen. I do want to give credit where it's due. Whether it's a temporary peace treaty or it's something that's going to have a longer effect, I just appreciate the sentiment that aligns with God's sentiment toward Israel. And Lord willing, we as this church and individually will always support Israel as we ought to. Now, I will say this, they need to be saved. Yes, ma'am?
See, I think it's helpful to realize that word hate is opposition.
Yes.
We think of it so many times as gnashing of teeth or something violent, which it is, but it's opposition.
That's right, completely opposite. That's right. And that comes about with, because the opposite of that would be the encouragement, and let me help you on your way. It's, I'm going to stand in your way, and you're not going to do this. Appreciate the input there. All right, so now we understand Nahash the Ammonite. Think of it as, I'm not saying that Nahash was embodied by Satan himself, but I'm saying that it's an impersonation. It was very much in parallel with the character and conduct of the devil. Yeah.
This verse says that. The very first line tells us that that's an evil person.
Yes, you could substitute, and the serpent, the snake of the Ammonites, yeah. Because you also find much of our understanding in Lucifer and his, shall I call it, the pre-Satanic days. We do get some insight there, and the understanding and parallel is the king of this or the king of that place when it's speaking of him. Well, what is the location here? That might give us some insight. Then Nahash the Ammonite came up. Okay, so as Dr. Q's referenced for other geographical locations, I believe that this was an increase. If you're viewing a map, this would be the coming up, and encamped against Jabesh Gilead. That's made up of two words, Jabesh and Gilead. So it's Jabesh, a more particular area of the wider area of Gilead. This is located a few miles east of the Jordan River. Most of the Promised Land was west of the Jordan River, but some of it was still east. And I think we remember that from our study in Joshua. So this area is known as Gilead, and that was part of Israel's land that was east of the Jordan River. It's about 35 miles north of the Dead Sea, but notably it was one of the weakest places. Well, let me say it this way. It was one of the areas of greatest vulnerability with which an enemy could attack the children of Israel. Does that make sense? You may have had cliffs, you may have had rivers, you may have had these other features in other areas that provided greater defense than the area of Gilead would provide people. You know, maybe it's a wide open area, things of that sort. This provides a good area for the enemy to come in and attack. Question: the enemies against us, do they seek our strong points or do they seek our weak points? The weaknesses, don't they?
I would think they would go after what could deter them.
True.
Just from me.
True,
I would think
true.
the stronger I am, the harder they're going to try to take that away from me.
True.
That-
Unless they can, I see your perspective, I really do. I don't want to train you to fight. All fighting is illegal. But defensive maneuvers, one of the principles you have to remember is you have to go after the strongest first. You don't want to waste your energies trying to escalate. Okay, got the weak ones out of the way, now who's next? You have to take the strongest out first. The devil has not yet learned that.
Okay.
He's dumb on many fronts, but he also has great wiles, great strategies. And a lot of times his attack methods are to wear people out, to wear them down. So that's why discouragement and sadness and blinding out the lights of encouragement and illumination are very effective. Because he has time. He has limited time, but while he has time, he is constantly going after the weak sheep. And you'll find that sometimes a predatory animal is looking for the weak in the flock that they're hunting. It's that, I believe that's that kind of setting here. But I do understand your perspective, Miss Mary. And there are times where that is definitely in play.
It's our weakness too.
Yes, yes indeed.
You lose focus.
Yep.
Go for the weakness.
If nothing else, I was distracted.
Take it.
Yep, exactly right. I appreciate the input. Well, and that's somewhat the application for that thought. And obviously I deal with threats and vulnerabilities every day of my life for my employment. A vulnerability is your weakness. It's kind of like your open door. Or you just have a door, and how strong or weak is that door? A threat is the danger that's coming in. We can't control every threat in life, and I'm speaking spiritually here. If we could, we would be engaged in forget locking the door, give me the sword and shield, we're in the forward momentum, let's go get it. I do not have the power to take on the devil and all of his army. I do not. I wish I did. Because I've seen firsthand the effect in my life. I've seen it in other people's life and people I care about. I have seen them fall prey to his attacks. It burdens me, especially a newly saved individual. Guard them, hedge them in, pray for them, get them in some good grounding because the devil is hunting them down. So, we must grow in strength spiritually every day of our lives. If we can't do everything about the threats, and there's a time to counter threat, but we must handle the vulnerabilities. I used to be weak in this area, in my thinking. The Lord's helped me with that. I am much more fortified and stronger in my thinking in whatever setting or category. But I have these weaknesses over here. Lord has the solution. Let's get studying. Let's get stronger. It's that kind of idea. And also looking after one another as well. So, Nahash the Ammonite comes up, encamps against Jabesh Gilead. He's got this intimidation factor about him. All the men of Jabesh said unto Nahash, make a covenant with us, and we will serve thee. So now what are they presenting? I believe they're presenting their fear, and they're trying to negotiate some peace. Make a covenant with us, and we will serve thee. What had the Ammonites come up against them to do? Attack and destroy. Those two words go hand in hand. Well, should we commend the people of Jabesh for trying to appease an enemy? I don't know. I think we could have various opinions, and I don't ever want anything to become contentious, but I could see arguments or considerations for both ways, right? You men of Jabesh, quit you like men, stand up, get the weaponry out, get word out, send out your intelligence officers, get word back. Don't be trying to compromise right off the bat. You need to show your strength and that you have a defensible position. I've thought through many scenarios for different places and so forth, and that is a common theme. In what way will we present that we are defensible? We're not a bunch of weak sheep in this area or that area, and we protect our sheep here. So be advised, don't even mess, don't even try. Well, people of Jabesh here quickly jump to, let's make an agreement here, okay? Pretty big army, pretty small group here. Looks like you're going to win. Let's do something here. Tried to slow down the invasion. Offered some conditions for peace. Yeah, but what were the conditions here? In essence, they were pulling out the white flag. We surrender, but let's make an agreement here. Well, the first thing they said is, and we will serve thee. This is not a contractual agreement to, tell you what, we've been free people. You are now trespassing and you're about to take over. How about we work for you? I don't work for any less than $150 an hour. Does that sound like a good wage? Oh, it's a little high? Would you take $10 an hour? And they're not going to become employees of the Ammonites. They're going to become, as it were, the children of Israel, slaves to the Egyptians. Hard labor. You don't get any voting or options offered to you. You will be told what to do and how to do it and when to do it, that kind of thing. We will serve thee. This is not a pleasant arrangement being offered. This is potential enslavement instead of death. That's what the people of Jabesh are considering. You see the nations, and you'll see this all the way through the Old Testament as you read it, nations that conquered other nations often put the conquered nation under heavy labor and brutal cruelty. So, people of Jabesh Gilead probably knew of this pattern. They were quick to provide a service rather than fight for freedom. I believe that speaks to their lack of courage. How quick we might be to generating solutions in any problem that we're in. I've spoken to this on several occasions because I used to be prone to this. Here's a problem. Okay, how to deal with this? Well, here are my top 3 priorities. Here are my subpoints. Here's the present, the short term, the long term, and I'm already calculating. And I didn't even once say, Lord, this is a situation here. Would you help me think through? What would you have me to do here? Or just telling the Lord, Lord, I need your help here. I do not have the power. I don't have the wisdom. You have all the power and you have all the wisdom. Before I even started calculating and going to my marker board and start scribbling out some plans. Remember, there are going to be times we pray about something. I know I may have been more humorous about that with replacing the starter on my truck. But I genuinely did pray about that because I've been trying to do better and better. Every single situation, go to prayer. Go to prayer. It makes a big difference, specifically to our strength, because it is not our strength. It's the Lord's strength. It is my view, and you may have a different view, and I won't think ill of you, but I believe the people of Jabesh were lacking courage here. Should they have just fought the Ammonites? I'm not saying that, but I do perceive that they lack courage. Tim, you have a thought?
I would add to that courage and faith.
Absolutely. And there's a great correlation there. They're paired. I believe faith precedes the courage. But be strong and courageous. Be strong in the Lord. My faith rooted in Him that I am acting upon, I believe, yields courage. Doesn't mean you won't be scared. By all means. There are plenty of things in life I've been scared about. And I'm sure you have as well. But I had a job to do. And I'm in a real squeeze. Some of it was literally. Told you about that before. Some confined space. There's something very disconcerting about being in a very toxic environment where 2 parts per million of the air could kill you instantly, relatively instantly. So you take off your life supply, your backpack really, it's an air pack, and you're going through such a tight area that you have to feed it in front of you. And one little snag could pull it right off your face, and you breathe in the poison. That was a little disconcerting. I did not like those situations. But I'm still here, so maybe I only got 1 part per million. Might also explain a lot of other things too. But
you still did it because you had faith.
I trusted the Lord would have me die when it was His timing. Yep, I did. Those were the thoughts going through my head. And there were a lot of things where I was just Tell you what, if I die in this situation, I'll stop worrying about it then. So how about I stop worrying about it right now? But still, I could have jitteries, 105-foot ladder, different things. I'm not a heights guy, but I was assigned a ladder company. That'd make a whole lot of sense. But we don't get what we want. We go where we're needed. Spiritually, that's applicable as well.
They're tests.
Yes, life is one giant test.
Exactly what's going on.
Exactly. Well, it wasn't all about me, but what is this arrangement that they make? Well, they offered it. Nahash answers in verse 2. Nahash the Ammonite answered them. Did he say, sure, that sounds like a good idea? No. Who's the one holding the power in the conversation? Those of Jabesh Gilead or the approaching enemy? The approaching enemy. So he gets to decide the conditions. Before I get into the details there, let me ask this, rhetorically, or if you have input, are we ever in a position to negotiate with the enemy that approaches us? Whether it's physically or whether it's spiritually. That might sound like a pretty heavy question because there could be different perspectives. What I'm saying is this: can I negotiate with the devil? With the one that hates me with everything he has because he hates our God? Can I negotiate with him? Can we come to the table a time and again, schedule after schedule, and hope to eventually come out with an agreeable solution for both parties? That will never happen. Tim?
We can compromise with evil, which we should never do.
I agree with that. I think people sometimes fail to realize the devil is 100% evil, and he is the epitome of evil, which, as Miss Arlita said, is opposite. It is against everything that is right. And Dennis has talked on this several times. I appreciate his mentions of evil is not so much a substance as much as it is a lack of all that is good. There's something similar to that, Dennis. Tim, yes, sir.
So we can go from a position of strength, which is faith, to a position of weakness, which is compromise. We should never do that.
That's right. And it can go instantly too. Sunday was a good day. My Bible reading was a good read. I had great meditation. That was excellent. Phone call. I'm back to worrying. It's instantaneous. That's why I believe the Bible speaks of being in the fear of the Lord all the day long. Or all the day. At all times in the fear of the Lord. Well, Nahash, I'll just cover this real quick. We'll be done. Gives them a less than favorable condition. Nahash the Ammonite answered them, on this condition will I make a covenant with you, that I may thrust out all your right eyes and lay it for a reproach upon Israel. Wow. Cruelty, pain would be involved more than just simply losing sight from the right eye. Nahash was intending to totally disarm the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead from fighting against him. The right eye would be very important for many, many things, except for a few rare left-handers. And what's interesting, my wife is left-handed, my daughter is left-handed, or our daughter. Michelle, I think, are you left-handed? Yeah, we got left-handers. So it's more common to me now that I guess I've known more people, but I think it's more common that there's right-handedness. And I believe that would speak here to a right-handed individual and their right eye, shooting arrows, etc., being the dominant eye, using the main weapon of warfare back in the day. That might be the equivalent of a soldier's rifle in today. But again, there are left-handers. But you have, with weaponry, you have things of offense and things of defense. Defense takes care of the things coming your way. The things of offense are the things that you're sending that way, in essence. And so if you had a shield, that's of defense to prevent things coming your way, etc. But usually you would have your left side blocked and your right eye would be primary eye. I don't know if that's the reason here, but I believe there was some reasoning behind it. I believe that's what Nahash the Ammonite wanted. He wanted the removal of any advantage. He wanted it to be very painful, and he wanted to take away their protection. I think we need to stop there this morning. There's a little bit more we'll look at there as it relates to them offering themselves as servants before they go ask for some help. Obviously, I speak to risk and threats and vulnerabilities practically daily, sometimes several times throughout the day. I'm used to it. Not everybody is used to that kind of talk. So I want to be certain that you understand. I'm intending to be encouraging here. We often find our great encouragements knowing somebody has overwatch. Some people, a group of people, more than one person has overwatch. And they're not being obvious about it, but they're always watching and they're always in defense. Let me tell you something. That is what God is doing for us. I don't need to fear the unexpected. I don't need to fear the unknown getting into the next situation. It is still within God's view. It is still within His control. To Tim's earlier points, it is my faith that is the problem here. And God doesn't automatically create faith in me. That's what He has put on my will to tip it whichever way I want to yield it. And oftentimes I put more faith in the unknowns than I do faith in the known. Shame on me for doing that, because God is our defense. He is our shield. He is a buckler to them that trust in Him. We do not have to fear the devil, because he is more powerful than we are, except that the Lord, when He comes into us, never leaves us. He will never forsake us, and the devil cannot beat the Lord. So we are safe in His arms. Let's recognize in every situation His wisdom and His power. So hopefully we'll get through this. I'm sorry if some of the topic of conversation may have been upsetting or it was a little heavier than you thought, but I believe that the background was important. Let's pray. Dear Father, I pray that you bless your words. Continue to bring them to mind. Help us to meditate on them and their principles. Thank you for giving it to us. I do pray your blessing on each. Please keep each one safe, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.